Hi guys, it's the Forgetful Scholar, and this week we're going to talk about two books. Well, a book and a DNF. And if I'm a little low energy, it's New Year's Day and I am wrecked, so bear with me. Happy 2024, everybody. So let's talk about the DNF first and kind of get it out of the way. The DNF is That Time I Got Drunk and Saved a Demon, Mead and Mishaps, Book 1 by Kimberly Lemming. So, granted, I didn't get very far into this book before I just couldn't. So, okay. So what I liked about it was, like, first 5 pages, you got the setting, the type of world it is, you know. So it seems like, you know, it's a humorous fantasy book, right? So it's set in a sort of a medieval Dungeons and Dragons kind of world. And I think the author did a really good job of, like, first 5 pages, we get that. We get the setting, right? We get that she's not like other girls, and not like she's not like other girls, but she's actually, you know, I think the author did a good job of actually making her different than the other women in her village. So their village, it's a big celebration. Apparently, you know, there's these big gates that keep the demons out, and every decade or so, the gods pick the temples and pick who are going to be the heroes and the heroines to go make sure the gate stays closed, right? To fight the demons and stuff, right? And she's like, oh, so many of the girls she grows up with always wants to be picked, because who doesn't want to meet handsome heroes? But that's not what she calls them. I'll get to the vernacular later. And she doesn't want that. She's a spice seller. She wants a normal, quiet life. And I'm like, okay, all right, cool, you know. Again, humor's subjective, right? It wasn't my kind of humor. Also, and maybe I just didn't get the joke, right? So her friend Bree, the cheese seller, and when I read that, I was like, okay. Like, I was like, a little chuckle, all right. But then the next sentence is like, I know her mom really didn't like her settling a cheese seller with that name. Meanwhile, her name is Cinnamon Hot Pepper, the spice seller. So I was like, I think the line about her mom saddling the cheese seller with that name, if that wasn't there, I would have thought the naming was really funny, like a little cute, like kind of innocent, kind of a joke, right? Or if later on, Cinnamon is just oblivious and that's what it's trying to show us. Okay, I didn't read that far into the book to see that, so that's my bad if I missed that, right? Now, and if you watch some of my videos for a while, you know that there's one thing that drives me nuts. It's when, like, a historical or fantasy book takes a character, mostly a female character, that seems like they belong in our contemporary world and puts it in the past or a fantasy setting, and that's the only world they've known. Like, they grew up, they're born and raised in the past, or they're born and raised in this fantasy world, but they use vernacular that we have. It drives me nuts. I couldn't do it. I couldn't keep reading because that's what the author was doing and it was driving me nuts. Again, that's personal preference, you know what I mean? And I really wanted to give it a try, but, like, it's like nails on a chalkboard for me. I just couldn't. So it starts off, they're at the celebration and she's like, yeah, people really getting their groove on. And I'm like, okay, I don't like that. But okay, let's keep going. Let's keep giving it a try. Because, you know, there's so many other ways to describe that in this fantasy medieval world. Like, oh, people were really dancing. They're really getting into the dances. They were, you know, really getting into their drink. Like, there's so many other ways to say that. That's sort of a time neutral kind of way. You know what I mean? And then she's like, oh, I don't want to be a hero, even though, like, the heroes are all hot. And I was like, could have said handsome. Could have said attractive. There's so many other ways to describe someone, you know, as attractive or hot without using the term hot. That kind of gave me sort of time whiplash a little bit. So I'm like, medieval setting, Dungeons and Dragons world, and I played Dungeons and Dragons, you know, and then all of a sudden it's like, oh yeah, the heroes are always hot. And I'm like, I would have even taken like Yummy or something like a stud even, because, you know, horses exist at that time. But like hot, I was like, oh, it's a little too modern for me. Slang wise, right? And then, yes. Again, explaining why she's not like other girls, which I think actually, honestly, the author did a good job with that. And they did a good job building the world. It's just the vernacular that got me. You know what I mean? Again, personal preference, but that's what got me. And she's like, oh, who wouldn't want to fight alongside a hot hero? And then in her mind, she's like, me, bitches, I wouldn't. And I'm like, okay. Saying me, I wouldn't, same effect without the modern slang. And I just couldn't. So I was like, you know what? I'm hating this. I don't find it funny. The vernacular is like nails on a chalkboard for me. So I'm just gonna DNF it. It's a shame because there was a lot I liked. You know, I liked Cinnamon's personality. I liked the world building. Fast, easy, boom. I liked how we got a sense of her. In the first 6 pages, I knew who she was. You know what I mean? All really well done. It's just the modern day slang. And I'm like, oh, I can't. So I didn't. For self-help, for self-care reasons, I put it down. And then the next book, The Boy in the Locked Room, Beyond the Veil, Book 2 by k.m.avery. Now this is about 3 stars for me. This is the second book in this Beyond the Veil series. So the first book with Ward, or Edward, goes by Ward. This world has a pandemic. I don't know if I could say that word on YouTube yet. Probably not, so I'm just gonna say, okay. So this is book 2 of Beyond the Veil. And Ward, the main character, who is a medium, in the last book we found out that there was a worldwide illness called the arcane virus that kind of either turned, when you caught it, it either killed you or you got magic powers from it. Like Ward became a medium. You know, there's also different things with that. Different people got different abilities from that. And then there's some people who turned into magical creatures like orcs, elves, vampires, fauns, ghouls, things like that, right? So Ward, in the first book, Ward is called to this big mansion to help exorcise ghosts. Well, talk to the ghosts. Found out all these ghosts are sort of trapped there, and this evil ghost that's possessing people is like possessing people to continue doing serial killer work, and is like trapping his victims in the house with him. So Ward, who is a sweetie pie, is like, no, I'm gonna save them. And along the way, he meets Mason, Dr. Mason Madding, PhD, who is formerly a professor of the occult in a college, but he got fired when the arcane virus turned him into an orc. So he is working as a landscaper at this house. We love Mason. He is just the sweetest. He really is so kind, so considerate. Really a big sweetheart, right? So in the first book, they kind of started dating. And in this book, they're continuing the relationship. They live together. Because in the first book, saving these ghosts, Ward lost the use of his legs. So he's in a wheelchair. So started this book, and in the first book, he had these weird dreams with this little boy by the river. Super creepy, right? So in the start of this book, he keeps having the dreams about the little boy named Ryan, who is trapped somewhere. And he's kind of dealing with life now in a wheelchair and what that means. And in the first book, we saw how much Ward like has self-esteem issues, right? So that continued, and it's not easy transition. And I felt that was really good. You know what I mean? I mean, again, I can't say what's good wheelchair representation or because I don't use a wheelchair. But I liked how to make to make himself feel better so he could help out more. He rearranged the kitchen so he could reach things, you know, and Mason is wonderful and they're so in love, these two. It's sweet. Now, I'm going to leave that there for now, and then I'm going to talk about what I potentially don't like. Because there's the main mystery, the mystery about the boy. Like, there's a murder mystery, the mystery about the boy, and then a third mystery about this secret order. So, and on top of all that, there's a scene in the middle of it, and there is trigger warnings in the beginning of the book. So if you're prone to stuff like that, I would suggest reading those. His ex apparently is a cop, and he sees Ward at a crime scene. You know, halts his wheelchair so Ward can't get away, which is a little assholey, right? And Ward doesn't want anything to do with him. He's like, leave me alone, blah, blah. And then that night, the ex breaks into his house and tries to physically assault him and then tries to SA him. And it's such a, like, it came out of nowhere. Like, I felt like it came out of nowhere, right? And Ward basically calls on a ghost army to save himself, right? I don't know what that scene was for. It's a gut-wrenching scene. I was like tearing up on the edge of my seat. I was so upset for Ward, you know what I mean? I just don't know what that scene was for. So that's why I'm like, it potentially is not a scene I like, because maybe it might tie into like one of the mysteries that's going on in this book for the third book, maybe? I'm not sure. So I'm kind of like pending to see if that's what it is. Because if not, then I don't know why the fuck this scene was in there. Because we already, like, Ward is doing, you know, a seance for a client. So already we know that he got a power up because he could touch this ghost, which before he couldn't, right? And then later at the murder scene, the first murder scene, the ghost calls him a summoner, and, you know, he talks to Ward and he's like, okay, if I have any questions, can I call you back? Can I call you back? Well, essentially, you know, and the ghost is like, well, I don't have a choice either way. If you want me here, I have to come. So we already know Ward's got a power up and it's freaking him out about it, right? So that scene where he basically calls all the ghosts that he's helped in the first book to keep him safe, we didn't really need it, you know? And apparently these ghosts, like, attacked the ex and everything like that. And I did think, horrible scene, I did like that all the ghosts he helped in the last book were, like, legitimately worried about Ward, legitimately hated the ex, and were happy and was upset they didn't kill him. And I'm like, I know, boo, I'm upset you guys didn't kill him too, but okay. So, you know, it just kind of showed what a sweetie pie Ward is, and, you know, people like him. But it was just, that scene was weird. Like, it didn't need to be there, and the ex re-injures his back, you know. It's just, it was such an escalation, right? Because in the first book, we got, I think the ex's name is Terry, that he was emotionally manipulative and really is not the whole reason Ward has self-esteem issues, but a big part of it, right? But, like, he wasn't physically abusive to Ward and things like that. And then all of a sudden, he's a cop, sees him at a crime scene, had to look up where he lives in the database, so stalkery, and then go to his house intending to SA him. Like, it's such a huge escalation. There's no, like, him trying to call Ward, and Ward, like, leave me alone, I don't want to talk to you. No, nothing. It's just, like, 0 to 1,000. And I was like, what the hell? That's why I kind of think maybe it's attached to one of the mysteries I'll talk about later. So that's why I'm like, tentatively, I don't like this scene because I don't know what it's for. But if it ties back in the later books, I'm like, okay, that's why the author put the scene in. But until I know for sure, I'm kind of like, I don't know. Like, what was it for? I guess we'll have to see. I don't. So I'm done talking about that. I don't want to talk about that anymore. It is gut-wrenching. It just shows how strong Ward is as a person, and how he didn't let that, like, change how kind he is, you know? So, I'm gonna leave that there. I'm gonna move on. So, the mystery about the boy locked in the room, because, you know, his name is Ryan, and Ward really wants to save him, and the boy keeps changing ages. So that makes Ward think that he was probably locked up at 6, because that's what he presents himself the most. And maybe he's older, and the oldest he ever seen was like in his 20s, right? Poor little guy. You know what I mean? And what the mystery on like where he is and how that happened. Oh, it's so sad. Then there's murders going around that kind of leads to the third mysteries. So the first murder is this guy that works at a mental institution called Tranquil Brook, and he was killed by an ancient society called Antiquas Ordo Arcamas. And yes, my Latin pronunciation is horrible because I always want to do the vowels like Spanish, but it's not. Probably sounds more like Italian, so forgive me. I kind of chuckled at that name because that means an ancient secret order. Cool. Okay. And I kept going like secrets. You know, I don't know. I just found it, first of all, I like that the author used real Latin words. Second of all, I just kind of giggled at it because it's like, I don't know. It made me laugh. I don't know. Because I'm going to be a nerdy tangent for a second. The word arcane means mystery, secret, unknown. It doesn't actually mean like magic. It just refers to like secret knowledge, you know? Yes, now we kind of associate the word arcane with magic. Totally get that. I do too. So I'm sure this was supposed to be like an ancient magical order, but it actually says ancient secret order. And I was like, secret. It's like, I don't know. I enjoyed it. I'm a weirdo. I'm a nerd. I enjoyed that in my own head. Nerd tangent over. Okay. So the guy, the first ghost that like calls him a summoner, says that that order killed him and that you don't want them to know about you. You shouldn't be here. They'll come after you, right? And that's why I'm like, oh, is that why Terry like went from 0 to fucking evil in like 2 seconds? Is that maybe why that escalated? The ex that tried to essay him, you know, maybe that's why it escalated. Maybe this order kind of put Terry up to it. I don't know. Like, that's the only way I'm like, is that how that makes sense in the story? Because just, there's no, comes out of nowhere, you know? Like, the book would have been fine if, like, Terry was never in it. Like, the scene never happened. You know, it's still a good book. I was still on the seat of my pants with them finding the boy, them figuring out who killed people, you know? And the thing is, they don't really, apparently Tranquil Brook is like people who donate heavily to it are part of the secret order. So I think there's like an overarching conspiracy happening, right? And it turns out like like a psychiatrist is the first murder victim, and then 2 nurses. The third nurse like knew some shit was going down and like made copies, photographs, like, you know. So in Tranquil Brook, a lot of the old blood legacies that Mason is like researching. Because, side note, Mason decided to quit his job at landscaping because he hated it and wanted to work with Ward full time, which I think is super sweet. And also he had like his zest for research back, and he's wants to write a second book, and like, I was like, oh, that's wonderful, Mason. Anyway, back. So Tranquil Brook is run, or at least people give money from the secret order to Tranquil Brook, and this is where the old blood legacy families put their unwanted kids in there, for the most part, where the doctors are trying to cure the magic, so like take the magic out. It's like, it's pretty horrific, the descriptions of it, and that turns out where Ryan is, and like the story why he's put in there, like, baby. So Ryan turns out to be a psychic that when he touches something, he can get the emotions of the person who made it or touched it before, you know, and he is completely a wreck. I do love that basically, Ward and Mason basically kind of just adopt him as family, like once they get him out, and there's like integration into society, lessons and things like that, and the families are encouraged to go. They go to be there for Ryan. It's really sweet. The book ends really sweet. There's still like the mystery of the secret order and why the hell the escalation happened like that. So I'm giving it 3 stars just because I don't know why in the middle of the book that scene happened. Like, we already know Ward's powers are evolving, you know. So we already get it that the secret order probably after him, but if that scene is to show the secret order is super after him, I don't know. So we'll see in the 3rd book if it makes sense. So there we go. I am done and I want to go take a nap. I don't want to. It's time for me to get back to the real world. Like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you later. Bye.